passion is, for me at least, is going forward, holding that space, holding that intention, but without it being attached to an outcome. And to be consistent with it. And so I would say that I wouldn't ask, how do I make a living following my passion? I would say, you know what? How do I allow myself to keep on becoming, wiser, to keep on learning more as I follow my passion? And how do I allow myself to stand in the center of that gravity and to not, become a victim of circumstances, and to be consistent enough and follow my passion, trusting that the outcome will come?
And
now,
it's obviously come for you. And you also just got done telling us there were a lot of bumps along the way. So will you tell us a little bit about that process?
The bumps on my way?
The bumps and then how it turned around for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had many bumps, as you know, all the bumps that we talked about that were falling from the sky when I was in Iran. And then those are the bombs. And then the bumps here along the way as an entrepreneur, and, $150,000 in student loan debt. And at one point I was $115,000 in credit card debt. Wow. And it wasn't because I made I bought a lot of shoes or anything like that. I just made some wrong investments. And I have a funny story. I was about to marry my husband, Charles, and we were driving from Atlanta to North Carolina. And I was thinking to myself, I better tell him, got $150,000 in student loan, $115,000 in credit card debt. And so
better know what he's marrying, right?
Yeah, I should tell him. And so, I said, okay, well, it is what it is, and I'm going to tell him. So I relaxed my shoulders. I took a breath. I said it with, being a bit bold as I was saying it. And he looked at me so lovingly and he said, I thought you're supposed to come with a dowry, not debt.
Yeah, what's with that?
But really, and so some of those financial challenges, but how did I overcome them? So I'll give you one example. I remember sitting on the couch in one of the places I was living at, and the credit report came from the credit agency, and it was like the thesis I had done in professional school. It was so thick. And I looked at that credit report, and I was going to fall once again back into the same trap, the same victimized mindset of, oh, I can't believe I've got this much in debt, and what is it going to happen? When am I going to be able to pay it off? This doesn't work. What if it doesn't work? Feeling guilty for the debt and worried about how I'm going to pay it off, which is definitely not being in the now.
And the same thoughts that almost everyone goes through at some time or another.
Absolutely. The same thoughts that actually keep on recreating more of the challenge we want to get rid of, And so I remember looking at that, and in that moment, something shifted. And I have this statement that I use, and I say, shift happens. And so, and I'm sitting there, and a shift happened within me. And this shift was about me saying, you know what, I'm going to look differently at this debt. I'm not going to deny the fact that it's here, but I will change my emotions toward it. So, there is sort of a bridge that connects me to this debt. And so the bridge has to be made out of conscious emotions rather than unconscious ones. And so my job is to accept that, this is a lesson, this is a teacher. And so I started doing that with so many things in my life, taking responsibility. And, for me, the essence of responsibility is not guilt or fear. It's love, being able to choose and say, yeah, it's here for a reason, and I'm learning. And so it is here. I'm not going to deny it, but how I feel about it, that I can change.
Yeah. Well, and so how did it change, as that internal change happened, how did it change in your external world?
Very good question. A couple of things as the internal change, or how I was looking at that, my emotions about it changed. I actually started feeling better. I would get up in the morning and I realized at one point that I don't have, this huge load on my shoulders, this huge emotional load, because I used to get up and go, it's 7:00 in the morning and I've got $115,000 in debt. All right. What is today going to be like? But I got up and I started realizing that I didn't have this debt this emotional load on my shoulder. So I was feeling better. And of course, as we know, when you start feeling better, your intentions change. And as your intentions change, your confirmations change. And so now I'm feeling better. I have more energy to actually want to do something productive with my time. In addition to that, as I was feeling better, I valued my life more. I valued my circumstances more. In essence, I valued myself more regardless of them. Now, as I'm valuing myself more, I'm valuing my time more. As I value my time more, I do more and more effective things with it. And so not only that, but at the same time, this shift in my emotions started attracting more synchronicity into my life also. People, circumstances, situations that were matching and resonating with this newfound emotion within me, which was, the essence of it was more inspiration and less desperation. Mm-hmm. And that also started enhancing the whole formula. And really, I started handling and neutralizing and releasing a lot of these challenges, including my financial challenges, because I believe on some deeper universal level, I had learned the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, Ellie, I'm gonna be very American here.
Yeah.
And I hope you forgive for this, but as Americans, we really put a lot on seeing what's actually happened. So I'm going to ask you if you're willing, and if you're not, it's okay.
Sure.
But if you're willing, just to share some of the specific things that happened. I assume that you were able to pay off your debt. Mm-hmm. Yes. And,
yes, absolutely.
And you've had a number of businesses. Some of them were not so successful, but some of them have been very successful. Isn't that true?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. And you have, sometimes people talk to us and they say, well, but, how could I ever do something with these great people? And yet you have spoken on the stage with people like T. Harv Eker and Mark Victor Hansen and Dennis Waitley and Les Brown and others who are just remarkably famous American speakers, transformational leaders. And how did an immigrant girl from Iran manage to do all that when many Americans